Game development explained. No theory, just what works.
Okay, let's talk about handoffs. We've all been there, right? You pour your energy into a piece of work, you hand it off, and then a week later, it comes back completely wrong. That specific kind of rework, the one that comes from a broken handoff, it just hurts. It can cost your team days of lost time, it spins up endless meetings, and it just feels uniquely painful. So today, we're going to break down a really simple but powerful standard to make sure that never happens again. And this really hits home for me because think about it. A bug is usually a clean technical problem. You find it, you fix it, you move on. But handoff rework, that's a totally different beast. It's a systemic problem. It bleeds across teams, it burns hours in meetings and Slack threads, and it forces everyone to just stop what they're doing to rebuild a shared understanding that honestly should have been there from the very beginning. So here's the plan for this explainer. First, we're going to dig into the real hidden cost of all this rework. Then we'll look at why even really great teams fall into this trap. After that, we'll introduce the elegant solution, the 5-item handoff. We'll see it in action with a clear before and after. And finally, we'll cover exactly how you can put this into practice today. You know, when your handoffs are sloppy, your entire project schedule kind of starts to feel like a tax system, where everybody is constantly paying interest. And that interest shows up as those quick calls that are never quick, those endless review loops, and delays that seem to pop up out of nowhere late in the game. It's this hidden, silent drain on everyone's productivity. So let's be super clear on what a handoff actually is. It is not just assigning a ticket or sending a Slack message with a link. A real handoff is a transfer of two things, responsibility and context. That means the person sending it is responsible for packaging that context clearly, and the person receiving it is responsible for making sure they actually get it before they take over. So here's the most important point. A handoff isn't successful when a ticket moves from one column to another. No. It's successful when the receiver can actually start working on their own, without needing to schedule a meeting just to figure out what's going on. If they have to call you to understand what the task even means, the handoff didn't just fail. It never really finished. You moved the work, but you left all the important context behind. Okay, so why does this keep happening? It's easy to just blame it on bad communication, but the real reasons are usually way more predictable, and they happen to even the best, most talented teams. Let's take a look at the 5 most common failure points. Do any of these sound familiar? First, the context you need is scattered across 10 different documents and a bunch of chat threads. Second, the work is described as just an activity, like add a button, instead of the actual goal. Third, you find out about some critical constraint way too late, after the work has already started. Fourth, dependencies are just vague statements like waiting on art. And finally, really important questions never get written down, so they just turn into dangerous assumptions. Now, if you're nodding your head recognizing those patterns, I've got good news. You do not need a complicated new process or some expensive new tool to fix this. All you need is a standard. The solution is a dead simple 5-item handoff package that directly solves every single one of those failure points we just talked about. These 5 things, this is the minimum payload for any significant handoff. Let's break it down. The purpose tells you why you're doing the work, which fights that activity not intend problem. The current state gathers all that scattered context into one place. Constraints surface the rules of the game early. Dependencies turn vague blockers into concrete plans, and open questions, well, they make all those silent assumptions explicit so you can actually resolve them. Think of this table as your little cheat sheet. This whole framework just boils everything down to answering 5 critical questions that, if you leave them unanswered, almost always lead to rework. It's that simple. Why are we doing this? What's the situation right now? What rules do we have to follow? What do we need from other people? And what do we still need to figure out? All right, theory is one thing, but let's make this really concrete. We're going to look at a super common scenario and see the night and day difference this 5-item package makes in the real world. Okay, on the left, you've got the before. A simple one-line request. I mean, this looks harmless, right? But it is an absolute invitation for disaster. It guarantees questions, rework, and wasted time in meetings. Now, look at the after. The purpose clarifies the goal. The current state gives the engineer a clear starting point. The constraints prevent them from building something we can't ship. The dependency is a concrete plan, not some vague blocker. And the open question has an owner and a deadline. The work can start right away, and more importantly, it can start correctly. So how do you actually get this into your team's day-to-day workflow without adding a bunch of painful bureaucracy? Well, it's actually surprisingly easy. You don't need some massive new process. You just need to build 2 simple habits. First thing, just create a simple template in whatever ticket system you use. Jira, Trello, Asana, doesn't matter, with these 5 headings. This just makes it the path of least resistance. Second, find a moment that already exists in your team's routine. Maybe it's during planning or kickoff meeting, and do a quick check. Does this handoff have the 5 items? It's not about creating a gate, it's just about making sure your teammates are truly set up for success. And if you want a really simple test to see if a handoff is ready, here you go. Before you send it over, just ask someone from the team that's about to receive it these 5 questions. Can they restate the purpose? Can they name a constraint? If the answer is, no to any of these, guess what? The handoff isn't ready. And this isn't about passing a test. It's about preventing a future headache. Now, this is absolutely crucial if you want your team to actually adopt this. You don't want this to feel like some heavy-handed bureaucratic process. So, use what I call the coffee test. If the task is super small, something that'll take less time than drinking a cup of coffee, like fixing a typo, don't force the full 5-item package. A simple sentence is fine. Save this structure for the work that really matters, the stuff that crosses a boundary and carries a real risk of being misunderstood. And look, if there is only one thing you take away from this whole explainer, please let it be this. If you are ever in a rush, if you only have time to write one single sentence, make it the purpose. Answering the why is the single most powerful thing you can do to prevent bad assumptions and misaligned work. It is the absolute foundation of any successful handoff. So, as we wrap up, I'm going to leave you with a question to think about. When handoffs go wrong on your team, which one of these is usually the culprit? Is it the constraints that show up way too late? Is it the vague dependencies? Or is it those unasked, open questions? Just identifying that pattern, that's your first step to buying back countless hours of rework for you and your team.
If this is useful, subscribe.
New breakdowns every week.